Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing inspiring stories from business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors on the pursuit of wealth and financial freedom. This month's episodes of Inspire to Invest have been brought to you by Knock Knock. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire to Invest. I have Lauren Cohen with us today. She's initially from Toronto, but she's living in Boca Raton, Florida. She's a serial entrepreneur, international lawyer, realtor, and cross-border expert. She's a best-selling author and sought-after speaker and globally acclaimed legal and real estate business advisor. As a lawyer and realtor, she's particularly well-suited to guide investors in their cross-border investment pursuits, employed a harmonized concierge approach to residential and commercial investments domestically and internationally. Real estate investors and entrepreneurs hire her as a turnkey concierge to protect their businesses and revenues so they can avoid costly challenges while expanding internationally. So I'm sure you're going to be a wealth of knowledge. Welcome. How are you today?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. So it's nice to know that you're Canadian, but you are
I am.
enjoying, the sunshine down in Florida.
It is hot.
I always like to ask people, if they can take us back to the beginning, because you've obviously done a lot in your career, and now you're really focused on helping people that do want to explore opportunities beyond their own backyard, especially if they are
Correct.
Canadian and looking into things in the States. So maybe you can just take us back to like how you ended up pursuing this path and landing in Florida.
Oh, well, those are two very different topics. So I landed in Florida originally through an ex-husband
Yeah.
who was being, I guess, so to speak, transferred to start a new opportunity here. And we came right after I finished law school,
Yeah.
actually. And at the time, I worked in-house in various capacities. Then I got into what I'm doing because my second husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon. So I haven't
Oh
had a lot
dear.
of luck with marriage, but if not for that happening, I wouldn't do what I do. So he
Yeah.
was deported, put in immigration jail on our honeymoon. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then when that all happened, I was like, okay, there's got to be a way to prevent others from having this happen to them. We did not have good counsel. He did
Yeah.
not. I was in the process of getting my green card, which I got, and he was not permitted to get his green card because he had some crazy stuff on his record from Montreal. So suffice it to say that I had quite the journey, and really that's what threw me into the world of immigration law.
Yeah.
And then I created some streamlined paths, and there's been a lot of bumps in the road. COVID definitely changed the scope of what I was doing,
Yeah.
and various elections and changes in government. And like every day I wake up wondering what is it going to be today as an immigration lawyer. So it's quite an interesting ride.
Yeah, no, I guess just looping that back, you're a realtor as well.
I
So I
am.
think that's really interesting because a lot of the strategies that you employ that I just know having been to one of your events in the past is that you help people obtain their visas or their green card through real estate strategies. So maybe you can just talk about, how you ended up pursuing that path and, navigating those complexities because it is complex. And I mean, it almost looks like a spider web when you look at things from a tax perspective and the legal perspective, and then just trying to make sure that all of that matches up the right way so you're protected, from the standpoint of finance, but also from, people being litigious and things
Yeah.
like that.
Sure. So, thanks, Serena. So it really all came to be toward the tail end of COVID because, um, as I always say, 9 out of 10 immigration lawyers will tell you that you cannot get a visa through real estate investing.
Yeah.
And indeed, that is the case. And if you go, I'm a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, you'll go to various conferences, you'll hear all of us speaking, the lawyers, and everybody's like, you can't do it, you can't do it. Why? Because real estate investing is quote unquote passive, right? So toward the tail end of COVID, I was determined to find a way because not everybody wants a pizza shop or not everybody has a business they want to expand. They don't want to run a
Yeah.
car wash, whatever the case is. I always pick on pizza shops, but I was determined to find a way. That's really what it came down to. I said there has to be a way that you don't have to own 50 buildings to get a visa. And the
Yeah.
problem, even if you do own 50 buildings to get a visa, is that then if you sell one of your assets, your visa could be compromised. So I created a model that's called How to Immigrate Through Real Estate, and it's my turnkey process where I take clients through the whole journey of what types of real estate can qualify and how can you make them qualify and how can we build this business
Yeah.
that's not only going to get you a visa, because at the end of the day, most attorneys are just focused on getting the visa. I'm focused on getting them a business that will help them with their future strategy, with their
Yeah.
future plans for their family, for their business, and will help them with returns on investment. So
Yeah.
it's creating that streamlined path and helping them find the right real estate assets in the right locations so that it's really truly full service. And oftentimes we help them with managing the assets and the business once they actually obtain their visa, because a lot of people think the visa is the be all and end all, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's just the
Yeah.
beginning, because now you have
No.
to actually
Can
build
you
your
can you
life.
talk about those visas? Because I think from what I recall, it was kind of like one of the basic requirements is if you do have a business that you employ two Americans. So that was kind of like, as I understood, kind of the baseline with the business. But can you talk about that in a little bit more detail, like what visa it is, what some of those basic requirements could look like for somebody that would like to entertain something like this, and maybe what they're looking at from a cost perspective, to go down this road?
Sure. So there are, I call it alphabet soup, and I will share with you a resources page. It's actually very easy, investingacrossborders.net/resources. There is a graphic on there. It's called Visa Avatars, and it is alphabet soup because it's like every type of visa from, all the letters are covered.
Yeah.
So the most common visa, and I call it in my book, Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process, which you see behind me, is an E2 visa. I call it the coveted visa. And the E2 is available for Canadians, most Europeans, many South Americans. It depends on the country you're from because it's based on a treaty with the country between
Yeah.
the US and that country. So Canada has this treaty.
Yeah.
And the most common visa that most of my clients apply for is this E2. It's based on a substantial investment in a non-marginal business. There are no determinations of what that means. It's all subject to interpretation.
Okay.
Generally speaking, if you invest in traditional business, it's around 100, 150,000 plus fees. So call it 200,000 for argument's sake, that
Okay.
you're going to get a successful business.
And are we
But with
talking
real
Canadian
estate,
dollars or US dollars?
no, everything I say is US
Okay,
dollars.
so just to be clear, so if you're Canadian, you're listening, probably tack on another 30 to 40%.
Right. Yes. And
Yeah.
everything that, like, when you're moving to the US, listen, that's a hard sell. It's a hard
Yeah.
challenge, but I do have amazing partners that help with currency exchange and amazing partners that can help you access this whole thing without ever touching a dollar in your bank
Yeah.
and even accessing money through your RSP without creating a taxable event. So there are options, multiple options available that allow you to get through the journey without hurting your bank account or your bottom line.
Yeah.
The point is that this visa is, yes, you generally do need to employ between 2 and 5 employees over the 5 years of the visa. Now, is this a green card? No. Is it a path to a green card? No. So that's where the strategy comes in. Not everybody is going to be qualified to get a green card. And it's going to depend on if you have a spouse and the spouse gets a job and if you have a
Yeah.
master's degree. So one of the key differentials between what I do and what most of my colleagues do is that it is all about strategy for your business, strategy for your visa, strategy for
Yeah.
your family, strategy for your future.
Yeah.
And you have to think about those things when you are choosing who to work with, because at the end of the day, the visa is just a piece of paper that's
Yeah.
stamped in your passport. It doesn't say that you're going to be successful.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's huge. What would you say then is some of the common misconceptions that people have? Like, have you helped people kind of out of those challenges? Like maybe they kind of started down this path with another lawyer and then things were not going as anticipated. Like, do you kind of pull
Sure.
people out to, reframe their plans and help with that strategy as well?
Yes, they have to be open to it a lot. People get very hung up on numbers. And at the end of the day, it's about a lot more. And if you are really stuck on numbers in terms of making this move and you're comparing a full service program to a, $8 or $10,000 lawyer that is
Yeah.
going to get you a visa, then it's like comparing, you can go to Walmart and get a pair of pants, but you're not going to get the same pair of pants as you're going to get at, Nordstrom.
Yeah.
And it's a service and it's a process. And if you want access to me and my team, but especially me, and that comfort level, that peace of mind, that your process, because it's a big deal, and I've been
Yeah.
through it, and I've been through it with some challenges. And if you think that it's simple and you think that all of us are created equally, we aren't.
Yeah.
And on Sunday night, I was talking to a prospective client at like 8:30 p.m. And the client said, "So what is the big difference between you and the other immigration lawyers?" I go, "Well, I can guarantee you that none of them are calling you at 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday night. I
Yeah.
mean, just not happening." So it is really about making a choice for you and your family about the level of protection that you need, because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you aren't just moving down the street, like you said, you're moving across a border, and it's a big border. And anybody that thinks it's not a big border is making a mistake, because it is, and
Yeah.
everything is different, and you have to be prepared for that. You're really starting your life over. So you have
Yeah.
to give yourself the best support network that you can. And that is the program that we offer, which takes you through that whole journey. Most of our clients, after they get their visas, one of the things that they say is that we don't, we're still continuing to be associated, affiliated, partnering with them, sometimes even formally partnering with them. I'm helping one of my clients to obtain his U.S. law license. Like, it's really it's a relationship that we build, Serena.
Yeah.
And I think you see from my emails and from us continuing to speak over the years that I'm all about relationships. And if you're not going to build a strong relationship, why bother doing this? There's
Yeah.
too much at stake. These
Yeah.
people are moving their families. When I did it,
Yeah.
I didn't have a family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
when
that's a
you're
very different place to be going down there on your own, or if you do have children of a certain age or a spouse. Now, for anyone that is interested in investing in the United States, but they don't want to move there, do you support them as well? Because again, it can still
absolutely
come with that, complexity when you look at setting up an LLC or maybe what structure that could look like as you start to have more properties and stuff like that.
sure, absolutely. So I don't ever give a blanket answer about that, because it's super important that people
Yeah.
understand that even though there is a standard, and generally speaking, you're going to have a limited partnership and an entity under it, and the entity under it could be an LLC or C corp, okay?
Yeah.
Generally, it's not one size fits all.
Yep.
And I think that and a lot of people just set up an LLC, and that's not going to help you from the perspective of the Canada Revenue Agency. So every single thing that we do, whether it be that you're looking for a visa or you're not, because about 20% of our clients are just investing,
Yeah.
we're going to help you set up for success, both from a legal perspective, tax perspective, from every perspective. And we have the team in place. I'm not the
Yeah.
one advising on all of it, I'm the one coordinating all of it.
Well, and also I guess that would be different from state to state, right? So you're in Florida right now. Does that mean that you would be limited to helping people that are
No,
investing
absolutely
there?
not. So
Or
we
like do
we
you
help
cover
people all
specific
over the
states?
country. Yeah, we help people all over the country, and I have an asset protection slash transactional attorney that implements what the tax advisors advise. So it's
Yeah.
a process, and everybody goes through the process. Canadian, if they're from Canada, Canadian tax advisor, U.S. tax advisor, they work
Okay.
together. They come up
Yeah.
with a strategy. It's implemented by our legal team, no
Yeah.
matter where in the country. Okay, and then that structure is also set up in case the client that doesn't think they want a visa now eventually wants a visa,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of advantages to having a visa. And uh, putting being prepared, kind of like Girl Scouts, always be prepared, because you just don't know when that's going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really important just to think about long-term planning. Now, where does things like legacy planning and estate planning come into that mix as well? Because that's a whole other can of worms. Like if someone comes along and builds this illustrious portfolio, they get hit by a bus, like what happens to their family and stuff like that, right? Like, are you involved in anything considering like trusts or, where that would kind of come in?
Yeah, so we have cross-border estate attorneys. We have cross-border trusts. Well, we have everything available.
Yeah.
That's not part of the visa process. That we have certain things that are handled within the scope of our packages.
Got it.
Then,
Okay.
if the client wishes, we connect them with our trust and estates team, or with our we have, an international tax attorney, which is separate from the tax accountants that guide you on the tax issues. So every single element that a client could possibly need is a part of our ecosystem, but it's not necessarily part of the package that you start with.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Knock, knock. Where are my fellow realtors? How much time are we wasting trying to stay organized? We're trying to juggle our clients, listing presentations, and prevent our database from completely falling apart. It can be a lot, and that is exactly why I started using an app called Knock Knock. It's essentially my personal assistant that never sleeps. It helps me keep my entire property database on my phone. Listings, documents, contracts, it's all there. It lets landlords link their properties. You can build interactive presentations in seconds and send them anytime, anywhere. How cool is that? You can also collaborate with other agents through Knock Knock's private agent network. You can even promote your listings internationally with just one click. If I'm being honest, Knock Knock saves me so much time. It keeps me organized and it helps me close deals faster. If you're serious about growing your real estate business without burning out, you have to give Knock Knock a try. Inspire to Invest is proudly sponsored by Share, a US-based platform designed to help Canadians and Americans invest in rental properties across the United States completely remotely. With Share, you don't have to deal with tenants, repairs, or trying to figure out unfamiliar markets on your own. They handle the entire process for you, from setting up your US entities to sourcing vetted rental properties in landlord-friendly states, to managing everything post-close with professional property management. It's a done-for-you turnkey solution designed to give you all the upside of real estate ownership without the typical landlord headaches. If you've been wanting to diversify into US real estate but didn't know where to start, Share could be just the partner you've been looking for. What if I told you your next big client, investor, or business opportunity is already watching you? They just don't know you yet. In today's digital world, attention is currency. Sharing the right content can mean the difference between being seen as an expert or being completely overlooked. If you're not actively building your personal brand, you're leaving money, influence, and opportunity on the table. That is where Executive Lens comes in. We help busy business owners, investors, and entrepreneurs capture and curate compelling content so you can build a powerful personal brand on LinkedIn and beyond without adding hours to your already packed schedule. Through high quality video storytelling, we help you capture the essence of your brand. So when people see you online, they don't just scroll by, they stop, watch, and engage. Your story deserves to be told. Your expertise deserves to be recognized. And your personal brand, it absolutely deserves to stand out. Let's make that happen. Turning content into connection, LinkedIn leadership starts here. Find out more at executivelens.co. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspire to Invest. I've got Lauren Cohen here with me today, and she's a lawyer, a realtor, and everything else under the sun, helping people invest in the United States, whether that's buying a business or investing in real estate. Now, one of the things that I always like to ask people is what's one of the craziest things that they've ever experienced, either as a business owner or as a real estate investor. And you may have alluded to it earlier on, but you can either share a personal example or even something that you've helped a client with.
Yeah, I mean, really, and truly the craziest thing that ever happened to me was definitely when my ex-husband was deported. I mean, that was on the way back from our honeymoon. That was definitely crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I also was told I had a foster child, and I was over 40, had a foster child, was told I couldn't have kids, and my son, who's my son, is 14. So, oh, that just told you my age. So anyway, that was a crazy story because I had doctors in two different countries telling me you'll never be able to have a kid, and I
Yeah.
had a foster child, and then boom, I got pregnant. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, in terms of things like lessons and advice, for someone that is considering something like this, what's the general advice that you would pass along to them if they're just kind of considering getting their feet wet, figuring all this out?
Don't try to do this yourself is the most important thing. Really speak to an expert, and don't speak to an expert just in the US. Speak to a cross-border expert because it's very different. And a lot of people just go by what the US guides will tell you, or the US professionals, and they're
Yeah.
great, but they don't really pay attention to what happens back in Canada or your other home country. So at the end of the day, it's really important, whether you speak to me or somebody else, to speak to a cross-border specialist, somebody that understands the nuances of both sides of the border.
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, in terms of things like obstacles, as you have continued throughout your career, what would you say is one of the biggest obstacles that you've faced, and have you overcome it?
I think the obstacles, there's always obstacles. Like COVID was an obstacle because nobody was moving. The elections that happened this year, both in Canada and the US, were obstacles, but it's all about what you do with the obstacles, and that's why the book is called Finding Your Silver Lining. I
Yeah,
mean, my ex-husband being deported was an obstacle, but now we have to turn those into positives, and that's where I shine, is figuring out how to get through the tough times to build something amazing.
yeah. Now, since you are Canadian living in the United States, obviously politics is in the headlines a lot and stuff like that. What would you be your kind of typical take on what's happening with the current administration and like how that could impact plans for people that were hoping to move to the United States or invest here? Like, I think everyone kind of thought Trump would come in and really stimulate the economy, and then a lot of other things have happened. So I'm just curious to see what consequences that's having in the nature of your work and for your clients.
Well, it does create a lot of fear. But in my opinion, if you are interested in doing this, you've got to do it now.
Yeah,
Because if you don't do it, there are going to be changes, and the changes will not be positive. In
yeah,
other words, there will be minimum investment threshold. There will be mandated requirements. There will be a lot of things that are going to change. They could put quotas. So if you want to get this, even if you don't want to move, a lot of clients don't move when they get their visa. It's an insurance policy in your pocket. My strong recommendation is to do this as soon as possible, because changes are happening. I mean, we see them every day. It's not like I'm, just saying this out of, the tip of my tongue. It's
yeah.
facts, and changes are going to continue. So if this is something in your horizon, put it closer and let's do it now.
Okay. Now, in terms of things like financial freedom, like I always like to ask people if they're working towards a particular number of doors or a certain amount of cash flow and things like that, where would you say you're at in your journey?
That's a tough question, and I'm actually, just because of what me being an advisor, I can't really advise on that or confirm that. Suffice it to say that I'm never retiring. That has nothing to do with number of doors or cash flow or
Yeah,
anything like that. But having multiple streams of income is critically important for everybody.
yeah,
And that is what I am diligently working on right now.
yeah.
And yeah, being that source and resource for people is critical for me.
Yeah, and I think that really just stems from your sense of purpose and fulfillment. Now, in terms of like a portfolio, like outside of what you're doing as a lawyer or realtor, like do you have a lot of real estate investments as
No,
well?
I
Like
only
business
have two
investments?
at this time, and usually it's revolving to any given time.
Right.
We're
Okay.
going to be investing in further assets as we go forward with our clients, so that's
Yeah.
going to be growing, but at the moment it's just two.
Right. Well, you are in a favorable location. I know just from speaking to other investors, Florida is definitely one of the more landlord-friendly areas. So at least you do have some control if you decide to potentially test those waters. In terms of the podcast itself, obviously the name is Inspired to Invest. So I always like to ask my guests if they've got a particular quote that motivates or inspires them.
So yes, I do, but my quote, if you will it, it is not a dream. If you dream it, just do it. It's the same thing. It's always about making things happen and
Yeah.
taking advantage of opportunities when they're there.
Yeah.
Don't just sit back and wait. So if you dream it, do it.
Awesome. Well, I love that. Now, in terms of how anyone can get in touch with you that might want to consider a move to the United States or investment opportunities, what's the best way for them to reach you?
I am everywhere under the brand Investing Across Borders. And you can reach us at Investing Across Borders on Instagram, on Facebook, on everything. My group is called Canadians Immigrating and Investing in the US, on Facebook. And you can find me on Facebook, Lauren ESQ, actually on Facebook. And our email is hello@investingacrossborders.net. And I'll just reference back to the resources page, investingacrossborders.net/resources to grab some downloads, 10 steps to immigrate through real estate,
Yep.
the visa avatars, there's a few on there. So please download those, they're free. And, we also have a quiz that I'm happy to share. I think it's investingcrossborders.net/quiz, but I'm happy to share that. I think you should try it, Serena. It takes 2 seconds and it'll just decide on where you are in your journey. So
Great. We'll include all of that in the show notes below. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule
thank
to be with us
you.
today. Of course, for
Thank
anyone
you.
who's watching or listening, if you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and you're following along on social at the Inspired to Invest podcast. And of course, remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again. Thank you to Knock Knock for bringing us this month's episodes of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.